Hey, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Ashley. We're the founders of For the Good, a community created to empower and elevate you to live a purpose-driven life.
Our mission is to bring light into our world, and to do so, we have learned that it must start within.
We are so glad to have you here with us. Hi guys, in our last episode, I shared more about our why behind hosting our Recharge Retreat. Today, Jordan and I want to talk more about what we experienced and how it served us as a reminder on the importance of human connection and living with intention. As a recap, in that episode, I shared more about the background about how our retreat came to be. Every year during the last week of May, I take that week off because it is the anniversary of when my dad passed away, and I've chosen to use that time for the good. So I fill myself up with meditation, yoga, journaling, reading, all different kind of healthy practices to be able to elevate myself during that time and really focus more on what is serving my life, as I said, for the good during that time, and also which areas could use a shift. So I really thought that this practice could be shared with others and just to be able to really all gather together to take this time to be rather than do.
Something Ashley and I always talk about is that there are no coincidences in life, and that everything happens for a reason. So in the beginning, when we were trying to decide when to have this event, we had a day that was originally picked in June, in the first week of June. And once everything happened with the pandemic and having quarantine, we realized that that date just was not going to happen. Our first thing that we had to realize is, are we even going to have this event this year, or are we going to have to wait until next year and just put it off? We don't know when we're going to be able to have it. And I think after we talked about it for a little while, we realized that this is something that we really want to do. So we picked a day a couple months down the road in August, just hoping that by that time we would be able to carry this out. And I can say that having this day in August and having the event this past week, I think it meant a lot more to people because it gave them those couple extra months to go through the process of what we've all been going through. And they were able to come to this event and share all those feelings with everybody else and share what they had gone through, maybe some of the things that helped them get through. And I think just looking around, there was such relief on people's faces, just seeing them being able to communicate face to face with people again. And that was a big thing of this past week, and why I think it was such a big success was it gave people that outlet to talk about everything they'd been going through.
Yeah, Jordan and I, we talked about how important it was to be able to host this retreat because, as we said too, we believe that it was created for such a time as this, that it has been so incredibly needed, as I said earlier, about that human connection and building ourselves up, because this has been a trying year for many people. And we received such incredible feedback from everyone at our event, even when they walked up without even going through the retreat yet itself, just saying, how much it was needed and how grateful they were because we were still having it. And I think that this time more than ever before, it was needed because we all are craving that human connection and to be able to build deeper and more meaningful relationships in our life, and also elevating our own self, because we talked a lot during the retreat about self-care and different practices that we can utilize in our life. And we'll get to it later in the episode, but we had one of the speakers and she's a clinical psychologist, and I just saw people filling up their notebooks with notes and notes, and to me, that really shows that people are looking for new ways to be able to implement into their day-to-day. And I'm really grateful that we were able to bring this dream to life and have it happen over this past weekend.
I think it gave everybody a chance to realize that we're kind of all in the same boat. Everybody that came there, when we broke out into the group discussions and the breakout groups, where listening to what they were talking about, it had the feeling that everybody felt like they were kind of alone and isolated during this time, like a lot of us felt. But it seemed that a lot of people came to the realization that we all were going through the same thing, even though we felt like we were so alone that, the person next door is going through it too. But how many people actually got the chance to express all those feelings with someone else, instead of just going on Facebook or going online and, talking about it with your friends online? There's something different about being able to see somebody and talk to them, to have that human connection, which is a big thing I think throughout the event, is the human connection part of it. That everybody felt so relieved just to be in a group setting and to be outside and to be in a group of friends and supportive people where they could share some of their innermost feelings and what they had been going through. And seeing, some people that were complete strangers before this event being able to bond over something like that. I mean, some of the conversations that we heard, they were really deep conversations, and I think that's what Ashley and I wanted ultimately as we were planning out this event, was hoping that people really bought into it and opened themselves up, and I think most people were able to do that, and it was a really cool thing to see.
Another thing that I thought was really neat was, we were there for about, 6 or 7 hours, and I didn't see anybody spend any time on their phone. And I know that, you and I talked about this on our drive home afterwards. It was such a relief that people weren't, checking emails, checking their text messages, scrolling through Facebook, that they all came into this with this mindset that it is time to be intentional and take a step away from the world around us to be able to fill themselves up with what makes them feel good and to really focus on what we were doing that day. So for our retreat, we wanted to be able to create it into something that, as I said, was intentional. So all of the practices and sessions we had a purpose. We started off the day with morning yoga, and that really opened people up in this space to relax and elevate themselves to feel good in this space together. After that, we had gratitude and journal practices that started off with us taking the first 5 minutes to do what is called a brain dump. And in that time, for 5 minutes, we wrote down as many things we could think of that we are grateful for. And I feel like this is a really empowering practice because we had people after come up to us and say, in all my life, I've never sat down to think about what I'm grateful for. So this time was very special to me to be able to think about all of the blessings that fill my life. And after the brain dump, we went on to journaling practices. So we had questions on self-care, resiliency, inspiration that, were journal prompts, and people filled out the responses in their notebooks. And then we came back to it a couple hours later during our breakout session. So these practices to start the day were created with the intention to be able to bring that peace and that gratitude into the hearts of all of the people who came to spend the day with us.
Yeah, so one more thing about the journal prompts that we had them do in the beginning. After they wrote in their notebooks for, that extended period of time, what we saw was that when we came back to it a few hours later, there were a lot of people that didn't quite know how to answer these questions when they were just sitting by themselves and thinking. But when we brought these questions back and they were in the group setting, we found that they were able to answer these questions after really sharing with the people in their group and kind of bouncing off one another and throwing ideas off each other. I think that was a good kind of metaphor for how the day went, that people came into this with their own thoughts and their feelings and their experiences, and after sharing that with one another, they had a much more well-rounded view of everything that was going on, and I think that helped settle a lot of people too. There was a lot of people that seemed really relieved just to be able to say some of the things that have been in their mind with people who are going through the same things.
And I definitely think that our speaker session right after, the journal prompts helped to be able to guide and uplift people in this space and to create more connection with one another. We started off with Dr. Kristen Garcia. She's a clinical psychologist, and she came to talk with us more about our mental health. And a lot of people filled up their notebooks with so many different notes and incredible takeaways from her conversation about how we can elevate our mental health and how important it is for us to be able to do so, to be able to recharge ourselves. And after that conversation, we had Nancy Sovereign of Wish Upon a Teen. She's the executive director, and we love Nancy. We are so excited to have had her as one of our speakers. She talked about her inspirational journey from transforming, a painful time in her life to purpose and how it led her to Wish Upon a Teen. And we are so excited because a portion of our proceeds are benefiting this organization, and Jordan and I will share later more on in the episode about how we are going to be helping this nonprofit. But ultimately, I think that this speaker session was very powerful in itself to be able to open up these conversations about resiliency and mental health, these difficult conversations that we too often don't have, or, talk with others out loud. So I think that this was definitely much needed in this space too.
Yeah, I think a big thing about her speech was also saying that it's not selfish to take time for yourself. And I know as she was speaking, a lot of the people that were attending, they're just very busy people. They're family members and mothers, and they have jobs. And now with everything going on, they have to figure out, homeschooling their kids and all these extra things that are adding to their life. And I think the common theme is that a lot of them just feel that they have to do so much for the other people in their life, they tend to forget about helping themselves. And a big point of the speech was saying it's not selfish to take time out of the day for yourself. And something Ashley and I always come back to is that notion that everything starts within. So before you can go out and be the best mother or friend or husband or father, anything like that, you have to be that person for yourself. If you're going to offer that to someone else, you have to make sure that you're doing that and you're taking care of yourself and you're loving yourself so that you can give your best self to the world. And I thought everything she talked about was a great reminder and something that a lot of these people that were listening could finally take in and say, I do need some time to do something that will fill me with purpose, that'll make me feel like I'm doing something right.
Ultimately, that is our driving force behind hosting this retreat, is for us to feel empowered to just be. Because as Jordan said, too often, our lives are busy and the world is noisy around us, and we get caught up in all of that, and we don't take that time for ourselves just to be able to fill ourselves up and focus on, what in our life is serving us and which areas could use a shift. When our minds are so cluttered, we don't have that clarity and focus that we need as to, what am I doing and is it working? Is this really what I want to be doing? And her talk focused on this message to remind us that it is okay to be and to take care of yourself first, because as Kristen said, you can't fill someone else's cup if yours is empty. So you have to be able to remember to fill yourself up first to be able to serve those around you, and that includes, your husband, your wife, your children, your parents, whoever that looks like in your own life. After the speaker session, we had our breakout connection groups, and I think this is honestly one of my favorite parts of the retreat because we received such incredible feedback from this part of the event where people branched out into different groups, about 5 or 6 in each group, and they went back to the questions that we had earlier in the journal prompts to be able to share with others in their group and to connect on a much deeper and more meaningful level. People shared with us after how, their group opened up and how much they needed this conversation, because I think even though outside of the retreat we have family and friends, but a lot of these conversations don't always happen because a lot of times people don't want to have difficult conversations, or because it can make them feel uncomfortable, or they don't really know if what they're saying is the right thing or the wrong thing. And I think that just opening this space up to remind people that it is okay to have these conversations about self-care and taking that time to reflect within.
I think going into the event, Ashley and I had points of looking over everything and having that little bit of, I don't know if you want to say nervousness or anxiousness, just hoping everything was going to turn out the way we had imagined it when we first planned it out. And the one concern I think we had with going into breakout groups was, are people really going to dig deep and be able to open up about these things and, really connect with the people around them? That's what we were really hoping for. And I think just the way the day planned out, when you have people show up, I mean, first of all, when people just walked up, I was a little bit nervous. This is our first big event. We're starting the day out. All the time that went into it, getting there early to set everything up. And as soon as people started walking up, I mean, everybody was just in such a great mood. I think that's what stood out to me right in the beginning was, it's first thing in the morning. Nobody seemed really groggy or just kind of out of it. Everybody was so excited to come to see what we had planned for them. And I think that helped us out in the beginning to just feel so comfortable about what we were doing and that we were doing such a big thing for people too. So seeing people just fully receptive to what was going to be going on, that was a great sign in the morning. And going through the yoga and then going through the journaling, everybody just got in such a peaceful state of mind and a good place. And by the time we got to the breakout groups, I mean, it was so awesome to see people connect the way they did. And it was more than what we could ever plan. I mean, just hearing the conversations being had and seeing the way people were interacting with one another and even the groups that we saw clapping for each other as they're speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was such relief in people's voices being able to share, and also very empowering for people to know that they weren't alone and that they had people there for them if they needed it. And going throughout the whole day, I think the biggest part was seeing people just bond in the place that they were in, and knowing that we are all there for really a bigger purpose and a better purpose. And the day really couldn't have gone better, and that was a perfect way to get everybody through that.
And I think it's such an incredible reminder for us. When all of these people come to events like this, they walk out a different person. I think that we all have takeaways, our own from these experiences that we have, and we go out into the world to be able to empower and inspire others. So, for all of the people who came to join us at our Recharge retreat, they went out and they shared their takeaways, their experiences with their children, their loved ones, their family, their coworkers, and then it creates a ripple effect. So, when we do these kinds of personal development activities, it not only influences us as an individual, but all of the people surrounding us in our life, and then continues to create that ripple effect.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because that also shares what we said earlier about everything starting within. I mean, you can tell when you are in such a better place and you're feeling so good, not just about life, but everything in it, and you feel that you're connecting with yourself and you're putting in the work to just feel good every day. I think you'll tend to notice that you go out into the world and you are just a better person for the world. And the people that you meet and you interact with, all of a sudden it's just not the normal interaction. Sometimes if you go and you just talk to someone at the store, you give off this energy that really stands out. And at the end of the day, out of 100 people that person talked to, they would remember you because of that specifically. So I think that's the main thing to remember is doing all this work on yourself translates into how you affect the world. And for Ashley and I, that's the biggest thing we want to do is have people be that person they've always wanted to be so they can go out to the world and just put more good into the world and spread more love and happiness. And like Ashley said, that's a ripple effect. As soon as that starts within, you start affecting everybody in your life. And I think doing things that way and doing the work as individuals is the only way that we're going to actually change this world for the better.
And then after our Breakout Connection group, we had the barcode come in for a bar class, and this was a very energetic and fun way to wrap up our event. Like I said, all of our activities were created with intention. We wanted to start the day with a peaceful state of mind and with gratitude, and then be able to take that day into connecting with others and learning and building ourselves up, and then end on a high note and just feeling good and energized for the rest of the day. As we wrapped up the event, as Jordan and I said earlier, a lot of people came up to us and said, thank you so much for creating this. We already can't wait for next year. And we even had people say, maybe you guys should do this as a quarterly event. And it just for us shows, how much this is needed in the communities. And this is something that we have talked a lot about already since the event, what this looks like and how we can host this again and to be able to build this space, because human connection, self-care, mental health are all incredibly important things that are too often, not always prioritized. And when we do prioritize these things, we can really see that shift in our lives that we really need.
Yeah, I think that was a very big thing for us was everyone that left giving us that feedback and, as Ashley said, telling us how much they needed that day. I think as you go through the planning and everything, and it looks like it's just this event, you can't see yet just how big of an impact it has and what it means to the individual that's going to attend. So having that feedback, knowing that this really helped people, I mean, that was what Ashley and I were trying to do, is to do something that's going to help the people around us, that's going to help them through this time and help them go into the world as a better person. So that was very motivating for us, and I know as soon as we came back, now it turns to, all right, what's the next thing that we're going to do? As much as people are saying that it motivated them, it in turn motivated us just as much. And we're so appreciative and thankful for all the people that came and helped make it such a big success. And as I said, that just gets us ready to start the next one and go into it with a clear and focused head and knowing that this is exactly what we want to do for everyone.
And I do want to add, as I mentioned earlier, about how a portion of the proceeds benefited our friends at Wish Upon a Teen. This organization is based here in Michigan, and they serve the teens who are hospitalized with life-limiting illnesses. And we connected with them on Instagram about a year and a half ago, and they are an incredible group of people with an amazing mission helping and serving these teenagers and their families. And, with the proceeds from our event, we are going to be out shopping for a teen who is staying in Mott's Hospital or Children's Hospital here in Ann Arbor and Detroit, and redecorating their hospital room to uplift their spirit. So stay tuned to our social media for updates on that. And if you're interested, head on over to wishuponateen.org for more information on this organization. Ultimately, we wanted to be able to bring this nonprofit on with us to partner with them on a retreat because we do believe in giving back and the importance of charity and helping one another, because ultimately we are all on this journey of life together, and we believe that we are called to uplift, support, and encourage each other along the way. So a driving force behind our organization is to be able to, as Jordan mentioned, fill ourselves up within ourselves to be able to better serve others and really create an impact on the world while we're here. We want to give a special shout out and thank you to all of our fitness partners and speakers at our Recharge Retreat. We can't wait to have you guys back with us again and connect with you on future events. And especially to all of you who joined us to Recharge. It really meant a lot to our hearts, and we are so full of gratitude to have connected with all of you. And we want to remind you to connect with us on social media and our website to stay up to date on upcoming For the Good events. Have a great day, everyone, and make today count.
Thanks for joining us at the For the Good podcast. We would love to connect with you. Join us on Facebook and Instagram at For the Good Official and our blog at forthegood.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode.
Remember, a positive mindset is the beginning of true happiness, not just for the good of the individual, but for the good of the world.